Spend the last week running from the heat, but the beat's coming alive. Let's get lost tonight. Lord, who's on my
right. Hello, wackos. Merry Christmas and Happy Hanukkah. Welcome to the holiday episode of Without a Country. I mean, it's not a holiday theme, really, unless you like to celebrate the holidays by celebrating the possible downfall of democracy in Venezuela. But anyway, we are doing this pre-tape today, which is Saturday, December 21st. So just keep that in mind, even though it will be released on Christmas Day, December 25th. I might keep it a little shorter, just a tad shorter, because I know holiday episodes tend to not perform well. So I don't want to, do this whole thing and then have no one watch it. But I wanted to come through and never skip an episode, because I know for some people, you would love to just go to another room and watch YouTube instead of spending any time with your family during the holidays. And I think that's special and valid, okay? That's special and valid, and I see you. First off, obviously, if you are in New York City on New Year's Eve, I really hope that I will be seeing you at New York Comedy Club East Village for my annual Corinne Fisher's Morbid New Year's Eve. We have a stacked lineup with my very best friends in the comedy business: Harrison Greenbaum, Ryan Long, Danny Polishchuk, Chloe LeBranch in from Austin, Texas, Lev Fur, AJ Giro, and the one and only Christina Hutchinson. Doors are at 5:30 p.m. Show starts promptly at 6, and the show is stacked, so we have to start on time. Plus, it's like just a very busy night, so make sure to get there early. It's the perfect pregame, as I say every year. New Year's Eve starts early because it ends early, because the climax happens at midnight, and then after that, a lot of times it gets messy, so I just head home, even though I usually, on another night would like to stay out until 7 o'clock in the morning. But yeah, get those tickets. Tickets are already moving quite quickly for that show because of this stacked ass lineup. So make sure to get a ticket. You can get the ticket in the link in my bio at Philanthropy Gal. You can get it on the New York Comedy Club website. Again, it's the East Village location, so just keep that in mind. But it puts you in the perfect neighborhood to celebrate in style. So make sure to do that. Moving forward right into our enemy of the state, which, sometimes for the holidays, I don't bring such negativity to the table, but I had to this week. I had to bring some negativity to the table. So this week's enemy of the state are people who bought party decorations on Amazon instead of Party City, and now Party City is fully going out of business.
Enemy of the state.
This crushes my Party City. For those of you who know me, my favorite store in the entire world is Party City. On record, have mentioned it, I think, on this show multiple times. I have spent so much unnecessary disposable, but some would say just money that I didn't have to spend at Party City. I spent money there before I had money. I spend it now that I do have some money. I love Party City like a member of my family. This show, this guys, and also, like, I understand, like, that everyone needs to be on a budget. But the thing is, that one of my favorite pastimes is throwing parties. So I am familiar with the pricing of party goods. And I've checked on Amazon, because sometimes they don't have what you want in Party City. You check on Amazon. It is not competitive prices for party goods on Amazon. If you want an excellent price, you should go to Party City. Okay? Listen, I cannot put a stamp of approval on their Halloween costumes, because I can't do a bagged Halloween costume. But apart from that, the party paraphernalia that is available to you at Party City, it's a warehouse in there. The ceilings are so high. You go, is that heaven up there? This is the fact that this will no longer be part of my universe is it crushes me. It crushes me. Just walking through the aisles of Party City was therapeutic. When I lived in Harlem, there was one right by my gym that I would still frequent because I still see my personal trainer up there. So many a dollar has been spent in Party City, Harlem. That one went out of business a little while ago. But then I changed my energy and I put that energy towards the one on 14th Street in New York City. And now these are all closing. And before New Year's? Oh, I'm sorry. Where are you going to go to get party goods if you're throwing a New Year's party if Party City is closed? Because you can't rely on Amazon to get that stuff to you on time during the holidays. Good luck. You'll get that on January 7th. And then it's not going to be a good New Year, is it? So guys, this is why we can't have nice things. If you had a Party City near you and did not patronize it, well, then that's why things aren't working out in your life. It's literally a party in the store. It's always a party in Party City. I'm flabbergasted. I just can't. I just feel like I don't have faith in my fellow human beings. Call me a Scrooge, but maybe you're a Scrooge because you didn't shop at Party City. I've been shopping there since I was a little girl. Okay. And now it's gone. And again, prices were fair. The prices were fair. The selection was good. I don't know what more you people want. What's going to make you happy? So on that negative note, I want to go to a more positive note and give another shout out to our dictator, Hannah Pendergrass. If you are in Chicago or the Chicago area and you need your hair done, you would be crazy. You would be crazy not to go visit Hannah Pendergrass, your almighty dictator, because she's a hairstylist and colorist based out of her own private studio salon, woman-owned small business, okay, in the West Town neighborhood of Chicago. With 9 years in the industry, Hannah specializes in hair color and extensions. You know I love color. You know I love extensions. Come on, guys. She is committed to quality and sustainability, exclusively using products from Davines. Davines is a certified B Corporation with ethically produced hair care. Hannah can collaborate with you or dictate your hair goals. The choice is yours. If you want to book an appointment, sounds like a great way to start the new year with new hair, okay? I feel like, sometimes just having a fun hair color gets me through the winter, right? I like winter, but you just, you need a bit of a fun hair color anyway. So you can book an appointment by going to her Instagram, which is at hairbyhannah_Chicago. She spells Hannah HANNAH, or you can just head over to her website, which is hannahpendergrass.com. Pendergrass is spelled exactly the way it's said, but it's PENDERGRASS, like grass. All right. There's also up in my stories on Instagram, but this is a pre-tape, so that doesn't really help, does it? All right, let's give a shout out to all our Patreon wackos. Again, if you want to join the Patreon, it's patreon.com/withoutaCountry. It helps to pay everyone's salary on the show, aka Mike. I don't pay myself. I just put the money I earn on the show back towards the show by subscribing to news outlets and paying graphic designers and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So our capitalist pigs this week, thank you so much to Fright Lab, Emily Sorolo, Rebecca_99, Hillary, Jessica Parker, Emily Aziz, Ryan Beckland, Erin Fejas, Joy Turner, Dylan, Joe P., Nicole Perks, Elle Watson, Holly Clark, Joshua Callahan, Stephanie Anderson, Brandon Oglesby, Lauren Manu, Carrie, Caroline Bonner, Erica Backus, Lisa Ashbacher, Barbara Mondragon, Delaney Daviler, Randy Peterson, Tegan, McKenna Hansen, Leah M. Ellers, Laura Lynn Pearson, Christopher Fanguy, Norris Mark, EMC P333, Camilla Driggs, Jenny Lynn, Carolyn, Katie Robbins, Jennifer Daly, Catherine Best, Tim Ackerman, Boo Batsy, Lakin Keen, Lil Floha, Jesse Paygrain. I always say that weird because I think it's Peregne maybe, but I want to say Paygrain, but it's Peregne, I think. I don't know. Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. Audra Williams, Shelby Snyder, Michael Fow, Amber Christensen, Talene Georgian, Lila Lee Soley, Bridget, Marisa James, Chuggle, Brittany Gustus, Alex Hart, Sierra Mataro, and my cuties, Skylar Urito, Maria, Casey, Jasmine G, Kenny, Caitlin Owens, Jim Black Squirrel, Ivy Espana, Lily, Justin Choi, Tina Nelson, Brianna Middleman, Samantha Johnson, Esther Van Alst, Lauren Natinsky, Jessica Michelle, Laura Wolf, Morgan, Amanda, Elizabeth Snell, Emma Flowers, Emily, Karen Denise, Amir Hassan, Elise McCall, Long Arms Length, Sophia Tauber, Gemma James, Miranda, Emily Eckelberger, Cavs 138, Zoe Ross, Annie Green, Heidi Lundquist, Nicole, Carl Murphy, Margarita Cranova, Beth Brunner, Lauren Morkill, Chris Gordon, Tori Colster, Desiree Coutinho, Kristen Hood, Sammy Lane, Ms. Mack, and Emily LaFontano. Again, when I decided, guys, when I decided to read all the names of the Patreons weekly, I guess I really didn't think about how supportive you guys would be and how many of you there would be. Good thing I am fast at reading names and just reading in general. But I appreciate you so much. And so many of you have also made your gone to the higher tier, which is so appreciated if you are financially able. I know a couple of you said that you were no longer financially able to contribute. No worries. I appreciate the time you spent with us. It's okay. You never got to feel bad about that. Financial situations change, but I appreciate any contribution you make to the show. Absolutely. Now let's get into our news stories. Obviously, this is something that we're still getting information on, so there will probably be more revelations by the time that this actually airs. But it certainly is a Christmas-themed story. It is the attack on the Christmas market in Germany. And normally I wouldn't make the main story an international story, but I just think this is quite clearly, unless we're going to go Luigi Mangione for the third week in a row, which I don't think is necessary. I just think this is the biggest story of the week as of now. So let's go to the New York Times for the first part of our left perspective. This says 3 minutes. Christmas market rampage shakes Germany. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, were killed in the attack, which took place in the eastern city of Magdeburg. The authorities are still seeking a motive. In 3 horrifying minutes, a 50-year-old Saudi resident of Germany exploited emergency exit routes and gunned an SUV through a Christmas market packed with revelers, German officials said on Saturday, which is today, as they grappled to piece together a motive for the attack on Friday evening that rattled the country. At least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, were killed in the attack, which took place in the eastern city of Magdeburg. More than 200 others were injured. That's a lot of damage. And of those, 41 were severely hurt, the authorities have said. Local Magdeburg authorities, speaking at a news conference on Saturday at City Hall, identified the attacker only as Taleb A, in keeping with Germany's privacy laws, and said his motive was being investigated. Which does make sense. Like, it seems like, but until you are proven guilty, it is a little weird in America. I mean, obviously this one's a little more on the nose because like they saw him do it with an SUV, right? But like when people are arrested and charged with the crime, it is kind of weird that we splash their name all over American news, because even if you end up being acquitted, your name is then still tarnished if it's a big enough story, which seems unfair, right? Ronnie Krug, a member of Magdeburg City Council, defended the security at the market as sufficient. I mean, you just don't really expect a SUV to drive through a Christmas market. What are you supposed to do? Have a SWAT team? Have tanks surrounding it? Like, where does it end, Anything's possible. Saying that the emergency routes exploited by the attacker were necessary to allow ambulances through and were guarded by the police. Yeah, and when you think about, like, what's more likely, some crazed guy is going to run his SUV through the Christmas market, or someone's going to have a medical emergency, someone's going to have a heart attack, someone's going to, get scalded with a cup of hot chocolate. You need fire engines and ambulances and police officers to be able to get through, certainly. German officials said that they believed the attack was deliberate and that the driver, who was arrested shortly after the attack, acted alone. They also said the driver had lived in Germany for decades on a visa that granted him permanent residency. Germans had started the weekend eager to celebrate the start of the holiday season after a year marked by concerns over the stagnant economy, increasing job cuts, and political paralysis that culminated in the collapse of the German government. Yeah, Germany, you are not having the best week ever. Henriette Winkler, 36, was one of many Magdeburg residents who had been looking forward to a quiet and peaceful Christmas. Well, I guess you should have thought of that during the Holocaust. Just kidding. I'm part German. Visiting the market hours before the attack. Now I almost don't feel like Christmas anymore, she said. Once entering the market through one emergency exit, the attacker drove through the crowds, packing alleyways lined with stands before leaving the market through another emergency exit. Tom Oliver Langlands, the director of the police in Magdeburg, said at the news conference. Shortly afterward, the driver was arrested, and he is under investigation on suspicion of 5 counts of murder and more than 200 counts of attempted murder. After the attack, video broadcast on German television showed a man with a trim beard and round wire-rimmed glasses lying prone on the ground beside a BMW with a crumpled front fender and grille as officers pointing pistols at him shouted at him not to move. The authorities said the suspect lived in Bernburg, about 25 miles south of Magdeburg. Heavily armed police searched an apartment in the town late Friday. The Salis Clinic confirmed to local news media that the doctor worked as a specialist in psychiatry and psychotherapy at their hospital, the media reported. He first came to Germany in 2006, the authorities said. You know, that really goes along with my theory that no one is more fucked up in the head than people who practice mental health professionally. And apologies to my best friend. The doctor had an active social media presence that included postings criticizing Germany for what he called the authorities' tolerance of radical Islam, German news media reported. A security official who spoke on the condition of anonymity because of the sensitivity of the matter said that those reports were accurate. In his social media, the man also expressed support for the anti-immigrant Alternative for Germany party and reposted comments by party leaders warning of the threat of Islamic law being imposed in Germany. Chancellor Olaf Scholz, accompanied by several of his ministers on Saturday, visited the site of the attack and laid flowers at a memorial across from the market. In 2016, an Islamic extremist rammed a semi-truck into a crowd at a Christmas market in central Berlin, killing 13, which is 2016. That's a long time ago, but it was interesting because when the story emerged, I was like, didn't they have another problem at a Christmas market? And then I was like, oh, yeah, they did. Since then, bollards blocking the entrances to street festivals and holiday markets in Germany have become standard, as have security cameras and increased police presence, including plainclothes officers circulating among crowds. But, you know, a plainclothes police officer walking around, not going to really help against the power of an SUV. This year, knives were banned at holiday markets across the country. That feels fair. And security at the Magdeburg market had been increased after an armed man killed 3 people at a street festival in Western Germany in August. I mean, we see this all over the country. It's like, you know, it's like anytime there is a joyous gathering of a large number of people, this is a great opportunity for something really bad to happen. So this includes getting together to, praise, the Lord Jesus Christ or whoever you believe in. So, places of worship, music festivals, Christmas markets, school. I mean, less joyous for some, but again, like where you're going to be, your mind is going to be on something else, right? In Magdeburg, a line of large concrete blocks painted red and green, had been placed at the perimeter of the Christmas market, which was set up in narrow streets, holding wooden stalls decorated with twinkling lights and selling hot mulled wine, sausages, and gifts. So German. It is not 100% possible to protect such events, said Andreas Roskopf, the head of the Federal Police Union. After Friday's attack, cities across Germany sent extra patrols to the thousands of Christmas markets that remained open on Saturday. In Cologne, the authorities banned suitcases and larger bags at the market around the city's cathedral. I mean, those should be banned anyway, just because if you're bringing a suitcase to a holiday market, you're not like, it's too crowded to have a suitcase at a holiday market. Stop doing that. It's annoying. In Leipzig, the police set up extra barriers at the entrances to the market. We will need to speak about security, but not today. Rainer Hasselhoff's, the governor of Saxony-Anhalt state, told reporters on Saturday, "Today we are mourning." That seems like someone who just wants to celebrate the holidays and doesn't want to deal with this until New Year's to me. How much time do you think that guy spent actively mourning today? I would say 90 seconds. Germany needed to have an intense discussion about what it would take to give citizens the feeling that in Germany, we not only have secure Christmas markets, but that we are able to live our lives how we want to, Mr. Hasselhoff said. Magdeburg, which is the capital of Saxony-Anhalt and has a population of about 240,000 people, was part of communist East Germany. The annual market is set up in the center of the city in front of City Hall. On Saturday, people came to lay flowers at a memorial set up on the steps of Johannes Kirk or St. John's Church near the attack site. The pile of flowers at the steps of the church grew throughout the day on Saturday as visibly shaken people stopped by to pay their respects and to mourn. Marco Heyer, 49, of Magdeburg, came with his wife to the church, both of them fighting back tears. Mr. Heyer recalled visiting the market with its fairy tale section with figures that recounted stories to children, as well as with the usual stand selling food and gifts when he was a boy. "In my opinion, it was the nicest Christmas market in Germany," he said. "It will never be the same again." Ugh, I hear you, guy. Surveillance footage circulating on social media and verified by the New York Times on Friday shows a car plowing into a large crowd at the market shortly after 7 p.m. The car then turns right onto another crowded street. Video of the aftermath shows people helping the wounded as cries are heard. A couple who were at the market during the attack told a German television station that a black SUV suddenly careened into an alley packed with people who had come to celebrate the start of the last weekend before Christmas. The car drove some 1,200 feet before it stopped, officials said. It all happened so quickly, the couple said. Obviously, this is tragic, but it is funny to me when they interview witnesses and they were like, we were just trying to enjoy the holidays. Like they're trying to say, like, listen, there are places and times when it's appropriate to careen an SUV into a crowd of people. A Christmas holiday market is not that time or place. Yeah, I would say just like no time is appropriate to careen an SUV, whether it is joyous or not. I'm going to go over to CNN just because they are doing live updates to see if there's anything here. They just have a little more information about the suspected attacker. Like it said in the previous article, he is a 50-year-old doctor originally from Saudi Arabia who's been there since 2006. He is believed to be a former Muslim who renounced his faith and became increasingly anti-Islam. Prosecutors said he may have been unhappy with how Germany treats Saudi refugees, but they are still determining his motive. And again, there's some anti-immigration chatter in the previous article as well. It says previous warnings, Saudi authorities warned their German counterparts about the suspect multiple times, sources told CNN. Saudi Arabia considers him a fugitive and previously requested his extradition, a source said, adding that German authorities refused due to concerns for the man's safety there. So I think that is very interesting. That was not included in the previous article. Let's go over to the right. I was feeling, I don't know, I was feeling the holiday spirit, and I did go over to InfoWars. I don't know if you heard. So yeah, there was all that excitement because The Onion had bought InfoWars, but there was an update on that in the past couple of weeks. Basically, a judge ruled that the contract under which they bought InfoWars was null and void. So I don't think that's happening anymore. So this is just the same old good old InfoWars that we have come to know and feel some way about on this show. So they came in hard with these titles. So this one was from the World News section at InfoWars. Surprised they even have that. And it said Christmas market attack suspect was Saudi leftist asylum activist promoted by BBC. A lot to unpack there. So I said, we're going to get right into this. Legacy Media has been spinning suspect as right-wing for his support of AFD party's stance on expelling Syrian refugees and remarks made by Elon Musk and Alex Jones over Islamization of Europe. Now, is Islamization, is that a real word or is this an InfoWars word? Islamization. I feel like that. Have you? Is that a word you have used before, Mike? Well, you might have, but
no.
No.
But it does. I mean, I just Googled it. Google's AI overview is giving me a definition, and there's a quote unquote spread of Islam Wikipedia.
But wait, is it? It's not recognizing Islamization as a real word, right?
Penn State University Press has an article: Islamization and Native Religion in the Golden Horde, Baba Tuckles, and etc.
Oh, Islam. I mean, it feels downright problematic, but no, Islamization. It's used a lot.
I mean, when the stated goal of the religion is to stamp out every other religion because Allah is the one true God,
right?
You know, that's. I don't know if it's problematic to say that's a core tenet of the religion.
No. I mean, please, I don't try to sugarcoat Islam, and I know it's difficult because I have a lot of friends who are Muslim, and like I know there is a lot of beautiful aspects to it, but it is hard to unsee the part where many religions believe that their religion is the only true religion and that everyone else is going to be like damned for the rest of their lives or whatever. That's common. But there is an element of eradicating other like religions in a more violent way that I find hard to unsee in Islam. And again, like, please write into the show if it's just I've read a lot about this and I've talked to a lot of people who are, it's just hard to unsee that aspect of it. I don't think that makes people, that doesn't make people who are Muslim like bad. I mean, there's plenty of bad parts of every organized mainstream religion that, we just choose to selectively not, be selective about it or cherry pick or, not see or say, oh, I don't go by that part of the religion that's evil. But I'm interested. Please school me. I'm interested to learn more. And then if we are interested about what AFD is, just to clarify that is stands for Alternative for Germany, which is a far right and right-wing populist political party in Germany.
Uh-oh, heard that one before.
What?
A far right-leaning populist party in Germany?
Mm-mm. Oh, I see. Yes. The AfD is Eurosceptic, which where does it even go into what Eurosceptic means? What the hell does Eurosceptic mean? The septic tank. The AfD is Eurosceptic, or I'm sorry, it should be It's Eurosceptic, is what they're saying. That's how you pronounce it. And it opposes immigration into Germany, especially Muslim immigration. The name of the party reflects its resistance to, uncontested by mainstream parties, policies of Angela Merkel, with her insistence on a German version of There Is No Alternative. The German judiciary has classified the party as a suspected extremist party. So again, kind of has that terrorist is in the eye of the beholder vibes. Going along. So wait,
So this says a person who is opposed to increasing powers of the European Union.
Yeah. Okay. So the reason I was confused is because in the Wikipedia article they spell Euro. It's definitely Eurosceptic, but they spell it with a C instead of a K, like how we would spell skeptic in America. So that's why I thought it was septic, but it's Eurosceptic. So then when you say Eurosceptic, it makes much more sense, and you can then figure out the definition. Because I was like, Eurosceptic. I was just thinking of septic tanks. Okay, so Eurosceptic, a person who is opposed to increasing the powers of the European Union. Skeptic. Okay, makes a lot more sense. That's why we just take some time, you know? All right, so back to the InfoWars article. Legacy Media has been spinning suspect as right-wing for his support of AfD party's stance on expelling Syrian refugees and remarks made by Elon Musk and Alex Jones over Islamization of Europe. Suspect was also reportedly a Zionist, which I heard just kind of through the grapevine, who supported Greater Israel. The suspect behind the Christmas market terror attack in Germany that left multiple people dead and hundreds injured was a leftist Saudi national who was promoted by the BBC for his efforts to help asylum seekers into Germany. The suspect, identified by German authorities as 50-year-old Taleb Abdul Mohsen, so I guess they don't care about, InfoWars doesn't care about Germany's anonymous laws, was taken into custody Friday after driving a rented car. That bill is going to be high, into a crowd gathered for a Christmas market in Magdeburg that killed 5 and injured over 200. Taleb was an asylum seeker who arrived in Germany in 2006, which aligns with the other articles, after allegedly fleeing Saudi Arabia for fear of persecution for being an atheist, which is interesting because then they were trying to, call for his extradition, as it said in the other article, and Germany was like, no, we're not going to send him back because we don't know what you guys are going to do to him there. And then he kills a bunch of people in their country. He was granted asylum in Germany in 2016 and had been living in the town of Bernburg as a psychiatrist. The BBC I guess that's also like if you want to seek asylum in a country and have them believe that you're going to be an attribute to the country, or a positive attribute to the country, then you're going to have to get a job that seems fancy and fun and helpful. The BBC in 2019 featured Taleb describing how he ran a refugee program to help ex-Muslim women flee Sharia law and the Saudi government's human rights abuses. I mean, so it seems like he did some good work and then maybe just had a bit of a mentee bee, Happens to the best of us. That's not good. Damn. Justice Report on X said Taleb A, the 50-year-old Saudi national accused of carrying out a bloody attack against scores of white families in Magdeburg, Germany on Friday, was once featured on the BBC for running a Saudi refugee program. It's a little weird that they said white families and then capitalized white. He can be heard in an interview attacking the Saudi government for alleged human rights abuses and claims that most of those...
Don't you capitalize B in black?
Huh?
Don't you, when you say like a black person, don't you capitalize the B?
You do, but you don't for white, and because white is not like a culture in the same way being black is. I understand it. I mean, I also understand the argument that like, shouldn't you capitalize white? I get it, but it's just weird because you don't, and so it's weird that they chose to do that. That same year, in an interview with Faz, Taleb claimed he was the most aggressive critic of Islam in history. Okay, well, we might have, wanted to pay attention to that. And that he was ostracized from the Muslim community in Germany over his atheism. He also detailed his move to become a pro-asylum activist in Germany in the interview.
That's like saying, he was shunned by his AA group for drinking. It's crazy.
I also I'm so curious to how this guy stayed in business as a psychiatrist, because I'm like, are the people of Germany not Googling their professionals before they hire them? This is how I almost ended up going to an OBGYN who is pro who is anti-choice. I was like, you got to Google your mental health and physical health professionals. You got to Google really any professional that's going to be working with you before you work with them, guys.
I had the opposite happen with like a OBGYN when we were going for Alex's birth. It was like this woman asked me if I'd had like my 6th COVID vaccine update, and I was like, I'm not trusting this person to bring my baby into the world.
6 COVID update is a little much.
It was nuts. It was like we were so far past where people were getting COVID shots.
Yeah, and when they get into those like these like the ones that like seem like really like too much, then I just get wary of like who is paying you off. Like, do you have like, you know, do you have a little Pfizer in your wallet? That kind of a thing. Following his identification as the suspect behind the Christmas market attack, Faz added an editor's note saying this interview with Taleb LA was published in June 2019. Entries of the alleged assassin in the social media indicate that he has also been increasingly quarreling with Germany and its migration policy over the 5.5 years since then. There are also signs of persecution delusions. Nothing of this was felt in 2019. Here is the unchanged wording of the conversation. Although the legacy media has focused on statements Taleb made in support of the populist right-wing Alternative for Germany, again the AfD, party over its critique of mass immigration, he apparently considered himself to be a leftist. Yeah, it's interesting that they're describing as a leftist because a lot of his viewpoints aren't leftist, even including like if he is like Zionist, you know, that's not leftist in the way that we know it in America, at least. Taleb A said in the interview that he was not a right-winger and described himself as a leftist, Der Spiegel reported. The German government repeatedly ignored warnings from Saudi Arabia about Taleb, as well as requests for his extradition last year. So right here, even the far right, the points there, that does align with what was reported on the left. Taleb told German authorities that his motive for the attack was related to dissatisfaction with the way Saudi Arabian refugees are treated in Germany. Again, that's aligned with the left perspective. Despite his purported atheism, Taleb also appears to be a Zionist who expressed his support for Greater Israel on social media. And it's written in Arabic, but translated from Arabic by Google. This is from his X account, which is at Dr. Taleb Jawad. That's the handle, but the name says Taleb Al Abdul Mohsen. I don't know why the names are different. It says, the real resistance against Israel is the one-state solution. We call on the Arabs to take to the streets in demonstrations to demand that Israel annex the West Bank and Gaza, and if they so wish, to annex Lebanon as well. When Taleb's background was still unclear, the media was perfectly content reporting that a car crash was responsible for the horrific attack at the Christmas market. And then Elon Musk posted on X a bunch of headlines where he highlighted that they were basically blaming the car, and I guess instead he wanted them to be calling him a terrorist. I guess that is his complaint here. And Elon writes in this post, "You don't hate the lying legacy media enough." And then an additional piece from InfoWars says, strange, in parentheses, convenient narrative emerges in horrific Christmas market attack. Again, a lot of screenshots of X are used in this article and a lot of quotes of Elon Musk. So please take everything with a grain of salt. Although I will say, considering InfoWars is pretty much as far right, you know, conspiracy theory, whatever, as I'll go here on this show, one step left from that I would consider to be Breitbart. InfoWars kind of the wackiest I'll go, you know, above like just a fucking thread from some dude on Reddit. I will say there was a lot of information that was aligned, you know. It's the little it's the kind of peppering of snarky right-wing commentary that makes InfoWars. There is actual information in these articles, though, so kudos to them. It's a twist that is incredibly convenient for the current failing progressive government in Germany, as they face a severe political backlash for their open border immigration policies and a rising tide of populism. It doesn't this is not marked as an op-ed, but the problem with InfoWars is every article feels a little bit like an op-ed. The primary suspect in the Christmas market terror attacks is Magdeburg. In Magdeburg, a doctor and refugee from Saudi Arabia is allegedly also a supporter of the right-wing AfD party, Tommy Robinson, Elon Musk, and Alex Jones, according to authorities. So they really love him here. 50-year-old Taleb Al-Abdul Mohsen, a specialist in psychiatry and psychotherapy, which is interesting because it feels like someone who's a fan of those people wouldn't even believe in psychotherapy, from the Saudi Arabian city of Hofuf, moved to Germany in 2006 and lives in Bernburg. He has been recognized as a refugee since 2016, aligned. Taleb is a critic of Islamist governments and a pro-asylum activist for people seeking to escape oppressive Sharia law. Reports claim that Saudi government may have tried to extradite him multiple times, which Germany refused. So again, that's all really aligned. German authorities cite posts by the suspect on X showing support for the AfD and popular anti-mass immigration figures. And so he also speaks German. So this is translated from German, not Arabic. It says and this is from the Dr. Taleb on X again. In my experience, the German police are the real drivers of Islamism in Germany. My experience is 7 years of police using dirty tactics against me and other critics of Islam, most recently in March 2024, to destroy our anti-Islam activism. The left are crazy. We need AfD to protect and police the police from them. So that's interesting because he's saying we need it. So he's saying the left is crazy. Okay, so I don't know. And then he says, I and AfD are fighting the same enemy to protect Germany. In June, he retweeted AfD party leader Alice Weidel, the left are crazy, we need the AfD to protect the police from them. He also retweeted AfD activist Naomi Sate with the following quote, tyranny is based on the docility of cowards, I choose to be brave. Posts cited as pro-Tommy Robinson and pro-Elon Musk are better represented as anti-censorship and an observation on the speech restrictions enforced by the German government. He also said on X, Daisley said that Elon Musk should be arrested and Tommy Robinson censored, citing Germany as a shining example of media censorship. My experience in Germany leaves no doubt they actually censor victims. And then he has a video with evidence, a video of Elon Musk. So this is interesting. Again, this ties into a lot of the themes we talked about last week, where we, have this idea that a lot of the problems with the right against the left and this cry of the media deceiving us and lying to us is a purely American thing. But as you can see, it certainly is not. It's really a shared sentiment internationally. At the same time, Taleb argued that Germany wasn't doing enough to support asylum seekers from Saudi Arabia and that they were engaged in crimes against refugees. Another tweet from 2006 after Taleb arrived in Germany suggests hostile intent against his new home. And this is from 2006, translated from Arabic on Google. It says, first, I assure you that if Germany wants a war, we will fight it. If Germany wants to kill us, we will slaughter them, die, or go to prison with pride. That feels like someone should have noted that. Because we have exhausted all peaceful means and we all have received from police, state security, the prosecution, the judiciary, and the federal ministry of the interior is more crimes against us. Peace is of no use with them. He was arrested following the market crash, which took place at 7:04 p.m. in the city of Magdeburg, according to unidentified government officials in the state of Saxony-Anhalt, who spoke to the DPA news agency. It goes without saying, but the ideological standards are completely contradictory. bordering on the suspicious. Why would an Arab refugee who wants to secure asylum for people trying to escape oppressive regimes in countries like Saudi Arabia also support a party like the AfD, which is seeking to shut German borders and end the flood of migrants from Muslim countries? And if he is truly anti-Muslim, why would he drive a car through a Christmas market where he is most likely to kill native Germans and non-Muslims? Trying to determine a motive is a mind-boggling prospect. There are a lot of conflicting pieces of information about who he is and what his motive was. I will agree with that. Reports suggest that Taleb was critical of the German government's antagonism towards anti-Islam activists, but this still does not explain his alleged actions. His recent social media resume reads like a schizophrenic cartoon character, but the media descriptions of him are a perfect amalgam of all the political positions that the progressive German establishment would like to demonize. And again, that's something we certainly jump on here in America, right? When news breaks of like a school shooting or something, and it's something that we like to demonize, straight, white, whatever it is, guy, that's kind of put all over. But then I even noticed with this most recent school shooting in Wisconsin that was done by a female, the headline I saw today. And again, I'm not even going to cover it because we still don't know a motive for that one. And it's literally just an article about it. She went in and she killed people. Like, same story that we hear every other. There's no other information right now. But one of the headlines today was that, she had a tumultuous home life. And we do hear that narrative, we heard that, as early as Columbine, that narrative of like, these people were outcasts and everyone at school was mean to them. But then I was reading the article about her tumultuous home life, and it just seemed like her parents got divorced once and then remarried and then divorced again. And I was like, okay, I mean, now divorce is causing you to shoot up schools. That's a lot. Back to InfoWars. Currently, the German government is debating a move to ban the AfD from participating in upcoming elections. The AfD is currently the second most popular party in Germany, and leftists are fearful that the movement could defeat them and disrupt their mass immigration agenda. Leftist governments across Europe and the UK have been engaging in a subversive campaign to thwart democratic elections and prevent the public from voting for right-wing candidates. It would not be surprising to see more attacks like the Christmas market in Germany blamed on populist and right-wing supporters. After all, it makes perfect sense that conservatives who are winning would suddenly engage in a terror campaign that might ruin their political chances for years to come and hand victory over to the progressive establishment. Obviously, that was said sarcastically. But yeah, so I actually didn't hate those articles from InfoWars. They had more info as usual than usual. It's to me quite funny, quite ironic that the website is called InfoWars, because it often does feel like the website has a war on providing information. So aptly named. All right, let's move on. Yeah.
Just that one though, like, I know so many comics who are now like quote unquote free speech comics who 6-7 years ago were like hashtag me tooing it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, to me, hashtag me too and free speech are two completely different
obviously
things.
I'm just saying one team was very pro censorship. Right. And like, I'm saying like,
saying that like, or basically trying to say that like hate speech was a different form of speech, that kind of thing.
Like going down that whole
which I have never agreed with.
Let's say Brooklyn path.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I mean, our listeners might not necessarily know what that means, but you know.
You can kind of get it from context clues, right? Like you're definitely going one way, voting one way, ideologically one way. And now 7 years later, you would, gush if you had a meeting with Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Like I
mean, I wouldn't.
No. I'm saying I know those people who would go so far to one direction that they would be doing like the equivalent of an asylum program, trying to help people out and trying to get some press from BBC. Things don't improve dramatically in your life and you still feel like you have the demons. And it's like, I don't know, maybe these guys can help me out.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that, and yes, you are right. We certainly have seen that a lot in specifically comedy, for sure. Because I think it's just like you become helpless, and then you go, well, if this extreme didn't work, let me try the absolute other extreme, and you're like, okay, well, maybe the answer actually just lies somewhere in the middle.
But it would make sense for someone to be that crazy to go on this kind of a rampage, to have also vacillated between those two political extremes with online stuff. So it is a very interesting one where both sides can be like, nah, he's your guy.
Right.
No, he's a crazy person.
Right. And then again, it's kind of like in a way comforting for me to read articles like this, because you're like, okay, well, this isn't just something that's happening in America, this obsession with ideology. It's almost like who he was is more important than what he did. And I think that's a real problem. If you mow down people and the conversation is, but where did he stand politically? And I understand that to stop crimes from this from happening, that we have to unpack the motive. Obviously, yes. But like, it seems like, okay, so like a 9-year-old is dead, and like, we're more interested in like, but who did he vote for? And like, let's go back to his tweets from 2006. And like, I also think that in 2024, going back to tweets in 2006 is not necessarily fair or accurate, because so much has changed politically and socially in that time. Like you just said, people have really changed their perspective.
Think about it. Back in 2006, Dick Cheney was a bad guy. Now he's on your team. Crazy
how those things happen. All right, let's move on to girl, everybody. Where's my timer? We started at what, like 2:15? I just want to keep an eye, because this is not correct. Usually I have a timer on.
I'll update it right now. We're at 51.
Perfect. Okay. So I'm just feeling, holly and jolly. So our first article from Girl is actually from Breitbart, okay? Because I feel like the past couple of weeks I did a lot from like New York Times and Washington Post. I was just finding information I needed. So, but I don't want to turn my back on what the show is. So here we are at Breitbart. They were really Breitbart and InfoWars really were delivering this week. Happy holidays to all. So I thought this was a very interesting article from Breitbart. It says Axios chiefs, citizen journalism controls flow of information. Very on topic for Without a Country. This is just very short, but it says the establishment media face tremendous pressure to remain the preeminent voice in shaping culture and politics, Axios chiefs Jim Van de Hey and Mike Allen said Friday. Van de Hey and Allen acknowledged citizen journalists on social media platforms have more power than ever to break through the establishment media complex and report what they see and hear. The validity of citizen journalists seems to have grown in recent years after big media pushed numerous hoaxes on the American worker. We aren't just the media here now, Donald Trump Jr. posted on X Thursday about the congressional spending fight. We are also the government, he continued. We finally have the ability to assess information rapidly and pressure our representatives to act in a manner that actually represents what we want. They can't hide and do the bidding of swamp oligarchs anymore. This is interesting, though. This is like off topic a little bit, but this does remind me of what was happening on the internet regarding Luigi Mangione and what the actual like general population of America might feel, right? So last week I talked about how I was so annoyed when my clip started going viral, my Luigi Mangione joke, and then everyone started writing that he was bisexual, trying to invalidate the punchline of the joke being that, a straight man's back hurt for a year and now a guy is dead, right? And so I was on stage yesterday and I presented the joke and then the follow-up joke about his Italian mom being more upset that her son's a bisexual than he is a murderer. And I said, and I could tell that like that wasn't resonating with the audience. So I just asked them, I was like, who here saw online that Luigi Mangione was rumored to be bisexual? And this is in a room of like how many does Gramercy see, Mike? Like over 120 maybe? Something like that?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say between 120, 150.
So full room. So between 120, 150 people in this room, not one person raised their hand. Not one person had heard this, as I said, unfounded rumor that Luigi Mangione was bisexual. And this blew my mind and really just reminded me that it is so important not to just live in this bubble of onlineness. And also, I mean, it was also obviously very like powered by the people who follow me and then who Instagram decided via the algorithm that my joke should be fed to. And I don't know the stats behind that. Like, so it's like if the algorithm recognizes that I mostly have left-leaning followers, are they then feeding my content to just other left-leaning followers who don't already follow me? Because that would make sense in the responses I often get on my stuff.
Oh, I have no idea. Oh. I don't know. They show you to. If I was Instagram, I would show you to right-leaning people because it would piss them off and get them to engage with you.
I mean, I don't feel like I don't even feel like the joke was right or left because the whole world came together on Luigi Mangione.
Yeah, but I know your comedy. If I'm running Instagram, that's what I'm doing. I'm putting you in front of like Jim Bob from Tennessee.
I would love
and rocking his world.
And that's who I would love to see it. It's so funny because I think part of it's lovely to go out and meet fans of my comedy and people who help support my life as an artist. I like really love that, but I find like I don't find it as creatively satisfying because it's not as challenging to perform for people who mostly already agree with you. Like, to me, it takes a little bit of the challenge and fun out of stand-up comedy. Like, it's more interesting to me to be thrown into these rooms in December filled with tourists who, couldn't get a ticket to see the Rockettes and so instead find themselves at New York Comedy Club on 24th Street, It's just more of a challenge. But yeah, not one person in that room, again, mostly, people from other cities visiting New York for the holidays, had heard about him being bisexual. And I just found that so interesting.
We also, though, do kind of have to be cartoonishly online.
Well, no. We do for sure. And like sometimes I don't like kind of heed the warning of online enough, as we found in how much people's issue with trans people affected the 2024 presidential election. So that's why it's really hard for me to decipher what is an actual problem in our country, or what is an actual conversation happening at dinner tables in our country, and what is merely something from psychopaths online who don't have any friends and just need to comment on Instagram reels.
It is nuts.
That's why I'm truly fascinated and interested by this, and I'm trying to learn. And I know, and I think it's I picked a lot of these types of articles, especially for Christmas Day, because one of the emails and comments and questions I get the most for this show is like, how do I talk to my family who I vehemently disagree with, who I feel like does not value my perspective and almost does not value who I am in the world because of their political and social views. And it's really, really hard to trace. All right, back to this Breitbart article. Van de Hey and Allen, media elites who appear to earn a living from framing the news with a left-wing bias, admitted that political fights such as the recent spending battle are won by, quote, those who control the flow of information to the largest numbers of people, or the right people at the right moment on the right topic. Very interesting. Citizen journalists Van de Hey and Allen admitted are winning control of the flow of information. Big media's lack of control over the flow of information puts more pressure on you as a news consumer to discern what and who you can trust for reliable, actionable information, they wrote. Obviously the whole basis of this show, and places pressure on media companies like Axios to up our games by winning and keeping trust. And so, like, know that when you're consuming news, like, to keep money in their pockets, they know they have to keep your trust. And how do they go about that? Offering clarity in moments of confusion and reporting clinically, not emotionally. And I think that's why, like, surprisingly, a lot of times when we go to, between like New York Times and Fox News, you're like, well, clinically, the facts are aligned. And that's why it is more interesting to go to a place like Breitbart or InfoWars, because they do pepper in a little sassy commentary that, even though I do not usually agree with the sassy commentary, I am amused by it. It's a more interesting read. Americans' trust in the establishment media to report current events fully, accurately, and fairly plummeted to a record low in 2024, Gallup polling found in October. Only 31% of Americans have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in the media to tell the truth, 1 point below its low watermark of 32% in 2016 and 2023. But I also feel like we have to be very wary of this distrust. So although I do not blame Americans for having a distrust in the media, I feel like it then encourages us to seek information elsewhere, but on places that are also not trustworthy and basically completely unfounded, And that's how we get Luigi Mangione being bisexual based off a text message of some girl who knows her through another friend. Again, my mind is blown by that. Not that he's bisexual, but just like where we got the information and how far it spread, but apparently not that far because literally no one at New York Comedy Club knew about it. And then kind of a sister piece from NPR about this misinformation, a big topic that we consistently talk about on this show. This is from NPR, how AI deepfakes polluted elections in 2024. In January, thousands of New Hampshire voters picked up their phones to hear what sounded like President Biden telling Democrats not to vote in the state's primary just days away. We know the value of voting Democratic when our votes count. It's important you save your vote for the November election, the voice said on the line said. Okay. But it wasn't Biden. It was a deep fake created with artificial intelligence and the manifestation of fears that 2024's global wave of elections would be manipulated with fake pictures, audio, and video due to rapid advances in generative AI technology. The nightmare situation was the day before, the day of election, the day after election. Some bombshell image, some bombshell video or audio would just set the world on fire, said Hani Farid, a professor at the University of California at Berkeley who studies manipulated media. Fascinating. I would love to have an expert in manipulated media on the show. The Biden deepfake turned out to be commissioned by a Democratic political consultant who said he did it to raise alarms about AI. He was fined $6 million by the FCC and indicted on criminal charges in New Hampshire. But as 2024 rolled on, the feared wave of deceptive targeted deepfakes didn't really materialize. It wasn't quite the year of AI elections like many folks foretold, said Zeev Sanderson, who studies how digital information is changing society at NYU Center for Social Media and Politics. Instead, the most visible use of AI in many countries was to create memes and content whose artificial origins weren't disguised. And that makes sense monetarily because that's going to circulate on social media because it's entertaining and get you a lot of money. Often they were openly shared by politicians and their supporters. Like if you're interested in deep fakes, especially like comedic use of deep fakes, my friend who you see on a lot of my shows and who's been on Without a Country, Danny Polishchuk, he does a lot of work with that. He's at Danny Jokes. So it's very interesting how he can make, Kamala Harris look like she's saying things that she is not saying. Scary, really. Farid said going into this year, and it's also interesting if you watched Ronnie Chang from The Daily Show, if you watched his newest Netflix special, he talks a lot about his frustration with his own mother, who will often show him, who will show him like, I think the example he used in the special was like, here's a picture of Bigfoot shopping at Walmart or something. And he's like, Mom, that's not real. And she's like, how do you know it's not real? And he's like, it's not real. Stop circulating that. I can tell because the print is wrong. The font is wrong. The lighting is wrong. And he's like, this is just a skill set you'll never have. And I think it was funny. It was accurate, but it also is something that is increasingly becoming a problem. Older generations who don't have that skill set thinking things are real when they are fake, and then just accidentally circulating misinformation, and then going to the polls and voting with that misinformation in their minds. Fareed said going into this year, he was more concerned about this sort of death by 1,000 cuts than the AI bombshell scenario. I don't think the images were designed to be clearly deceptive, but they were designed to push a narrative, and propaganda works, he said. I do think that there was a general polluting of the information ecosystem where people just started to give up. That's interesting. There is the kind of just giving up attitude. Resurrecting a dead dictator. Take Indonesia, where the political party Golkar used AI to reanimate Suharto, the longtime dictator who died in 2008. I am Suharto, the second president of Indonesia, the AI Suharto says before endorsing the party's candidates in a video posted to the social media site X by Golkar's deputy chairman. The fake Suharto says Golkar's candidates will continue my dream of Indonesia's progress. Soon after, Suharto's son-in-law, who also had Golkar's support, was elected president. AI memes were also prevalent in India, where the world's largest democratic exercise took place last spring. In May, at a bazaar in Jaipur, a trader named Dilip, who only has one name, told NPR his friends forwarded him AI-generated memes on WhatsApp, the popular messaging platform owned by Meta. He said he liked the ones mocking opposition leader Rahul Gandhi, like one where an AI version of Gandhi was depicted as a stupid thief, imagining all the money he would steal if he won. Still, Dilip said despite the memes, he's already made up his mind about who to vote for. One generative AI artist in India who goes professionally by the name Sahid SK said he took on memes because there was less risk of being sued for defamation by angry candidates. He said memes are a wink, not outright misrepresentation. But you'd be surprised how much, how people take memes as fact. There is just something about having a graphic, having something typed out that people go, oh, that's typed out. That has a graphic. That must be real. There's an infograph there. This must be accurate, People love an infograph. You could do an infograph. You could make up an infograph right now and put it online, and a lot of people would believe it. I think that's the only reason we haven't seen many deep fakes in this election, because everybody's afraid of legal notices, Sahid SK said. Plenty of false and misleading narratives were spread in India and other countries without using AI at all, instead through edited and doctored videos known as cheap fakes. Musk and Trump embrace AI-generated memes. In the U.S., political memes and viral videos spanned the spectrum from photoshopped images and out-of-context clips to AI-generated portraits of Vice President Kamala Harris in Soviet garb and of Black Americans supporting former President Donald Trump. In July, Elon Musk, the owner of X, shared a fake ad in which an AI clone of Harris's voice describes herself as the ultimate diversity hire without disclosing the video was originally posted as a parody. Musk and other Trump supporters frequently shared AI memes mocking Harris and Democrats and boosting the former president. Trump himself posted a cartoonish AI image purporting to show Taylor Swift endorsing him, which, to be clear, she didn't. Sanderson said this use of AI is not meant to change people's minds, but to make their preferred candidate look patriotic or noble, or to make their opposing candidate look evil. He noted these manipulations could be done with traditional photo and video editing tools, but generative AI just makes it quite a bit easier. Sanderson Also cautioned that AI may have been used in ways that are less detectable. I still don't think we have a really good, rigorous sense of how generative AI was used at scale, by whom, for what purposes, he said. What's more is it's hard to draw a direct line from the AI fakes that were identified this year to how people voted, says Fareed of UC Berkeley. Do I think it changed the outcome of the election? No, he said. Do I think it impacted people's thinking? Yeah, I think it did. And I think it will continue to do that. All right. Oh, my dog's being bad. Just hear my dog being a bad boy out there, barking at everyone.
No, he's been a good guard dog.
Who is he guarding? You?
Yeah.
Well, he does love you, so he is guarding you probably.
Yeah, he's a good boy.
All right. Let's go a little bit ahead. So Luigi Mangione is possibly going into double jeopardy, which, like, not the show, like the legal term double jeopardy. And just to explain it really quickly, can we pull up Eliza Orland's Instagram account again, which I've been using a lot. It's the last post that she left. I think there is a New York Times article about it, but I think she does like a really nice job of explaining it quickly. And that shouldn't get us knocked on the show because it's just her voice. Just to explain what is happening now that Luigi Mangione
There's something.
And again, Eliza Orland's has been a public defender for 15 years in Manhattan.
And a very attractive Survivor contestant.
Okay, well, do we need that part?
What?
Mike?
She's a beautiful lady.
Oh, boy.
Particularly unusual going on with Luigi Mangione here in Manhattan. If you watched my last video, you saw that he was indicted on New York State charges by the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. That's murder in the first degree, murder in the second degree, in furtherance of terrorism, criminal possession of weapon charges, and more. However, he is also charged in a federal complaint. They haven't brought forth an indictment yet, but there is a federal complaint pending in the Southern District of New York, which covers the same jurisdiction, which is highly unusual. Luigi's attorney, Karen Agnifilo, said that in 30 years working as an attorney in this jurisdiction, she's never seen a case handled like this. And as someone who has been a public defender for 15 years, also in Manhattan, I also have not seen this. Typically, if a case is going to be prosecuted in federal court, then it's prosecuted in federal court. And if a case is going to be prosecuted in state court, then it's prosecuted in state court. Not usually both. But the thing that is particularly troubling is based on the federal case, it could be a death eligible case. So they could seek the death penalty on that case if he is in fact prosecuted by the Southern District of New York. It does sound like Karen Agnifilo, Luigi's lawyer, is objecting on double jeopardy grounds. And apparently she said on the record that there were serious constitutional and statutory double jeopardy claims. If you're unaware, double jeopardy is the clause in the Fifth Amendment which states that no person shall be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy of life or limb. It's very curious that this is happening, and apparently during Luigi's arraignment in New York State Court in Part 32 of New York Supreme Court in front of Judge Caro, she inquired as to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office awareness that a federal indictment or a federal investigation was pending. Are the two prosecutors working together? What evidence is being gathered? Is there a joint investigation? Now, it has to be same or substantially the same charges. So if people are interested, we can go through the federal complaint as well. But I do think that this is a situation that we have not seen, at least not frequently, maybe not ever, here in New York. Make sure you're following along because I will keep you posted on all things.
So I just thought she explained that really succinctly. That's why I love her, because she's doing a real service in that she breaks down like the legal jargon so that the everyday person can understand exactly what's happening, which again I think is super important. At one time or another in most of our lives, we will all have some kind of an interaction where we need the law to either work in our favor or the law will be working against us, and we need to protect ourselves. And if we don't understand our rights, our constitutional rights, our rights in the state that we live in, our rights in the country that we live in, it's a real disservice. And you see that happen happening. A lot, obviously, then ends up affecting people who are undereducated and certainly people who are of a lower financial background the most, as always, as is the story forever and ever, amen, in America. That shouldn't be a problem with Luigi Mangione, as he is Ivy League educated and very rich. That being said, it's quite clear that the government is trying to make an example out of him so that there are not copycat murders. And, you know, while I do not think that the solution to our broken healthcare system is going out and murdering all the CEOs of healthcare systems, I think it's a conversation we've been having now for years and years and years and years, and no one was listening and no one was doing any changes. So it's like, yeah, now a guy is dead. And are we really surprised? You know, are we really surprised? Because that seems to be the only way to get a conversation going in this country is to shoot someone. And that's really fucking sad. Quick story here from Fox I thought was interesting. It says 2025 showdown. This Republican woman may become the nation's first Black female governor. So I just think just something interesting to keep our eye out for. Asked if she'd like Trump to join her on the Virginia gubernatorial campaign trail, Sears said, "We could use all the help that we can get." Republican Lieutenant Governor Winsome Sears of Virginia could make history next year as the nation's first Black woman to win election as a governor. She would also make history as Virginia's first female governor. But Sears, in an exclusive national interview with Fox News Digital, emphasized that I'm not really running to make history. I'm just trying to, as I've said before, leave it better than I found it. And I want everyone to have the same opportunities I had. Sears, who was born in the Caribbean island nation of Jamaica and immigrated to the U.S. as a 6-year-old, served in the Marines and is a former state lawmaker. She made history 3 years ago when she won election as Virginia's first female lieutenant governor. You've got to remember that my father came to America in 1963, just 17 days before Dr. King gave his I Have a Dream speech, she said. Sears noted that her father saw opportunity here, even though you really couldn't, as a Black person, live where you wanted. And yet here I am sitting right now as second in command in the former capital of the Confederate States, she said. With me, we can see once again there are still opportunities to grow, still opportunities to do even better. We are going to be better, not bitter. We're not going to be victims, we're overcomers. Sears has a major supporter in popular Republican Governor Glenn Youngkin, who 3 years ago became the first Republican in a dozen years to win a gubernatorial election in Virginia, a one-time key swing state that had shaded blue in recent cycles. Again, we're seeing this rightward movement in America and internationally. But Virginia is unique due to its state law preventing governors from serving 2 consecutive 4-year terms, so Youngkin cannot run for re-election next year. Youngkin told Fox News Digital last month that Sears is going to be a fabulous governor of Virginia. I have to make sure that we have Winsome Sears as our next governor, he emphasized. I'm going to be campaigning hard. Let's see. Sorry. Making the case that Youngkin, as a successful businessman, has brought that success to the government, Sears highlighted that we want to continue what he has begun. There's still so much work to do, regulations that we've got to get rid of, still educational opportunities that are needing to be taken advantage of, and I am the one to carry that because I've been part of that, she added. Virginia and New Jersey are the only 2 states in the nation to hold gubernatorial elections in the year after a presidential election. Because of that, both contests receive outsized national attention, and Virginia in particular is often seen as a bellwether of the national political climate and how Americans feel about the party in the White House. Very, very interesting. Sears was interviewed in Virginia Beach on Thursday with a month to go until President-elect Trump returns to the White House. In late 2022, she described Trump as a liability after Republican candidates that the then former president had backed underperformed in the midterm elections. And she said that she would remain neutral in the 2024 GOP presidential primary. I supported him in 2016 and in 2020. Why? Because I saw that he was good for our country, Sears noted. noted. But she added that Trump said some things and it bothered me. And I said, I come at this as a Christian. And so I figured, well, let's see if there's somebody else. Sears pointed to July's attempted assassination of Trump as the moment that changed her mind. I was waiting to hear a change. And after he was shot and he was accepting the nomination, I heard him say, miracles are happening every day. I am one of those. God has spared my life, and so I humbly ask for your vote. I was on board right then, she emphasized. And so that's interesting feedback as a Christian person, not me, but her, because I think the problem for some people who are a little bit more Christian than others in the truest sense of the word is that Donald Trump lacks a humbleness that very religious people want to see, because very religious people, no matter what, believe that God is so much greater than them. And many times when you hear Trump talks, it seems like he thinks he is greater than God. And I could see that certainly being alarming to, many people, but certainly very devout Christians. But a top Trump supporter in Virginia, conservative radio host John Fredericks, has continued to criticize Sears. She'll ruin Republicans' chances in Virginia in 2025, and we need a different GOP candidate that really has President Trump's back, he argued last month on his radio program and in a social media post. Asked whether she'd like Trump to campaign with her over the next 10 months leading up to the 2025 election, Sears said, I think he's going to be having a lot to do in D.C. And if he wants to come here, fine. If he wants to help, fine. We could use all the help that we can get. I think the most help Trump's going to offer is maybe a post on Truth Social. Sears, who launched her gubernatorial bid in early September, avoided a competitive primary when Republican Attorney General Jason Miyares announced last month that he would seek re-election rather than run for governor. Three-term Democratic Representative Abigail Spanberger, a former CIA officer, is her party's candidate for governor. Spanberger announced 13 months ago that she would run for governor in 2025 rather than seek congressional re-election this year. While a Sears-Spanberger general election showdown is expected, recent reports indicate longtime Democratic Representative Bobby Scott is mulling a gubernatorial run. The way I love the word gubernatorial, guys. We will see what shakes out on the Democratic side, but I will face whoever comes because I believe that we have the better politics, Sears said. She is viewed by political pundits as more socially conservative than Youngkin, who hailed from the GOP's business wing. Asked whether Sears was too far to the right for Virginia voters, Youngkin pushed back in his Fox News digital interview, saying not at all, and Winsome is a common-sense conservative leader. We have been partners literally from day one. We campaigned together. We were elected together. We have governed together. And I also want to say, I do feel like in this time when who you are, is more important than kind of what you do, like we just talked about with the Christmas market, in many ways, I think the Republicans are probably salivating at, this black woman, two checks in the leftist box, like, oh, she's black and she's a woman, things that we usually see going more leftist. Oh, but she could be the first female governor of Virginia, and she's black on top of it, and she's Republican. Ooh, we love this for us, I think they're kind of like, oh, you want to play ideology? You want to play who you are rather than what you do? Let's play that game right back. This once again confirms that Sears will have to... let's see. But the Democratic Governors Association, the DGA, pointing to the criticism from Fredericks, who chaired Trump's Virginia campaign in 2016 and 2020, argued that Virginia Republicans are kicking off the 2025 election divided and already publicly calling out Winsome Sears. So that's interesting to see, something that we often see on the left, just like infighting. This once again confirms that Sears will have to run even further to the right and take deeply harmful and out-of-touch positions to win the GOP nomination, DGA National Press Secretary Devin Cruz claimed. Sears, asked about the DGA criticism, which also includes spotlighting her stances on issues such as abortion and IVF, argued that Democrats are trying to figure out a way to hit me. I don't worry about it. I let them say what they want to say. I am proven to do the right thing. I've always said I'm a Christian first and a Republican second. That's always who I am, she added. So it must mean that I don't care about politics. I care about serving. All right. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Let's see. I'm going to do maybe 2 more articles. 2 more articles. 2 more articles. All right. I want to talk about this just because I find it interesting. It is Manhattan specific, but there was a secret Chinese police station in Manhattan. And I don't know. This just really tickled me. So this is from USA Today. A whole floor of an NYC building was a secret illegal police station for China. This is from the Department of Justice. A whole floor of a building in New York City was once functioning as an illegal police station for the government of the People's Republic of China, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. New York City resident Chen Jingping, 60, on Wednesday, pleaded guilty in connection with the secret police station in Lower Manhattan's Chinatown, according to a release from the DOJ. Walking distance from my apartment. Today's guilty plea holds the defendant accountable for his brazen efforts to operate an undeclared overseas police station on behalf of the PRC's National Police Force, a clear affront to American sovereignty and danger to our community that will not be tolerated, the release quotes Assistant Attorney General Matthew G. Olson of the Department of Justice's National Security Division. On Wednesday, Olson said the Federal Department of Justice will continue to pursue anyone who attempts to aid the PRC's efforts to extend their repressive reach into the United States. The police station closed in 2022 after an FBI search, the release says. Jinping, his co-defendant Liu Zhanwang, both U.S. citizens, were initially arrested on April 17, 2023. Zhanwang has not pleaded guilty to the same charge or for obstruction of justice, according to the DOJ. Executive Assistant Director Robert Wells of the FBI's National Security Branch said that the case is a part of China's larger efforts to threaten, harass, and intimidate those who speak against their Communist Party. Lin Jiang, a spokesperson at the Chinese Foreign Ministry, said there are no so-called secret police stations at a recent news conference. China has always strictly abided by international law and respected the judicial sovereignty of all countries, Jin said. The Chinese government has said that there are centers outside China run by local volunteers, not Chinese police officers, that aim to help Chinese citizens renew documents and offer other services. Beijing has accused Washington of fabricating the charges to smear China's image, Reuters reports. Jinping faces a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison, according to the Department of Justice. USA Today has contacted his attorney for comment. These blatant violations will not be tolerated on U.S. soil. Wells said the FBI remains committed to preserving the rights and freedoms of all people in our country and will defend against transnational repression at every front. Right under my nose. Right under our nose, Michael.
I feel like we covered this when she got arrested.
We cover so much. I don't remember everything that we cover, but this really tickled me.
I mean, you don't think this is happening all across America?
Apparently it is. Apparently I'm just a naive little princess walking around this world in my princess dress, Michael.
We have a new president every 4 years. We can't agree on a United Senate or Congress for more than 2 years at a clip.
Nice.
China has a 1,000-year plan. And a government in place.
Wait, is that on paper that they have a 1,000-year plan? Let me read into this.
Yeah, this was set up during the Maoist. We're like 100 years into their 1,000-year plan.
Oh,
and they're already basically winning.
Yeah.
Kind of nuts.
Yeah, the long game, China's grand strategy to displace American order. Wow. Okay. I mean, I knew they had the plan. I didn't know it was just like on paper called the 1,000-year plan. But yeah, no, this is China's 1,000-year project. On April 1st, China announced an ambitious plan to establish a national new area called Zhonggan in a swath of Hebei province, which encircles Beijing about 100 kilometers south of the capital. According to the plan, the Zhonggan new area will take over Beijing's non-capital functions and will become a demonstration area for innovative development. It goes on and on and on and on and on and on. This is from News China. Wow.
I'm just making the point that they are an actual, on the same page unit that is not driven by the whims of capitalist investors.
Yeah, planning for a 1,000-year empire in a changeable world from the Hong Kong Free Press. China's grand plan to take over the world. And they want to do it by 2049, so mark your calendars. While we're shopping on Amazon and not at Party City, China's taking over the world. That's why that's the only thing. Like, listen, I do not like censorship in any way, and so when we talk about possibly banning TikTok because as censorship, people are saying this is how we learned so much about what's happening in Gaza. I hear you. It's also how Amber Heard got completely thrown under the bus for something, but whatever. When she was being abused herself, and it's also how we waste so much of the FBI's time by amateur sleuthing in murder cases. But more importantly, I am so anti-censorship. You guys know that. But it is on record that the algorithm on TikTok is for America is different than it is for other countries. And it specifically boosts things that make us stupid and waste our time. So that's like the only reason that I am kind of like, I'm like, good, ban TikTok. Maybe we'll stop being so fucking stupid. And maybe we can put together even a 10-year plan. All right. Last thing I'm going to say today on today's episode is about Venezuela. Okay? Because I saw an interesting op-ed on The Hill this week about how the Trump administration can help democracy in Venezuela. We talked about this briefly. And there were some people during the Democratic National Convention who had escaped Venezuela and had talked about what was going on there. But BBC has something that they wrote up in August of 2024 that's just a crisis, a briefing of the crisis in Venezuela. So I'm going to read that, and then I'm going to read the op-ed, and that will be our show for today. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Well, we'll do another episode for New Year's Day that we're going to pre-tape as well. But so tension in Venezuela is running high after a government-controlled electoral authority declared Nicolas Maduro, and we talked about this, the winner of the presidential election and handed him a third consecutive term in office. Not only has the election been described as undemocratic by independent observers, but the result announced by the National Electoral Council has also been dismissed as fraudulent by the opposition. The European Union, the United States, and a number of Latin American nations have refused to recognize the result, calling instead on the CNE to release detailed data from polling stations, which the opposition says proves that its candidate, Edmundo Gonzalez, won by a wide margin. Anti-government protests have flared up and hundreds of people have been arrested by the security forces, which remain loyal to President Maduro. Those taking to the streets say that they voted for change after a quarter of a century in which Venezuela has been governed by the socialist PSUV party, first under the leadership of Hugo Chavez, then after his death in 2013 by his right-hand man, Nicolas Maduro. During this time, their party has gained control of key institutions, including the CNE, the Supreme Court, and much of the judiciary. As a result, the role of the president has become much more powerful, and the system of checks and balances has been severely weakened. Not long after Mr. Maduro was elected for the first time in 2011, global oil prices plummeted, and Venezuela, which relies almost entirely on oil revenue for its income, went into a 7-year recession. Inflation skyrocketed, and shortages of basic goods became widespread. Waves of anti-government protests in 2014 and 2017 fizzled out after a police crackdown. Millions of Venezuelans left the country to escape economic hardship and political repression. Amid growing discontent, Mr. Maduro was reelected in 2018 in a presidential election widely dismissed as neither free nor fair. Could be worse, right? Venezuela's divided opposition in January 2019 united behind the only major institution where they were still influential, the National Assembly and its speaker, Juan Guaido. With the backing of the National Assembly, Mr. Guaido declared himself interim president. And while more than 50 countries recognized Mr. Guaido as Venezuela's legitimate leader, the military stayed loyal to Mr. Maduro, and with the continued support of China and Russia, he remained firmly in charge of the country. Shortages eased after Mr. Maduro relaxed some of the strict foreign currency regulations brought in by Chavez. However, extreme poverty remains shockingly high and has contributed to more than 7.7 million people leaving Venezuela to seek better lives abroad. Disillusioned with the failure of Mr. Guaido's to seize control, the majority of opposition parties dissolved his interim government in December of 2022. In October 2023, they organized a primary to choose a unity candidate to take on Mr. Maduro in the presidential election on July 28th, 2024. Former lawmaker Maria Corina Machado won it by a landslide despite having been banned by the Comptroller General, an ally of President Maduro, from holding public office. After her appeal against the ban was rejected, she threw her weight behind ex-diplomat Edmundo Gonzalez as the unity candidate to take on President Maduro in the presidential election on the 28th of July. Opinion polls gave Mr. Gonzalez a wide lead over Mr. Maduro going into the polls. Fearing fraud, the opposition deployed thousands of people as witnesses and observers. Copies of the voting tallies they provided, which have been uploaded to the internet and independently reviewed, suggest Mr. Gonzalez has won the election by a wide margin. The Maduro government, however, insists that the result announced by the CNE, which is stacked with its allies, is the only valid one and has accused the opposition of incitement. It has cracked down on the anti-government protests, which have broken out, with the defense minister branding the marches a coup. All right, so kind of mostly up to date right there. Obviously, that's from August, but of this year. And I like this op-ed, and I think it's a positive note to end on in the holiday spirit, because it's from the Hill, so right-leaning but still not psychotic. And I like an op-ed that's saying here's something that the Trump administration can do that's positive, right? That's positive and supports democracy internationally. And as someone who voted very openly for Kamala Harris, I do want to look at ways that we can support Donald Trump in doing good work. I don't want him to fail. I really don't. It's not good if he fails. And so that's why I like this op-ed, right? Again, this is from The Hill, how the Trump administration can support democracy in Venezuela. Support for we want countries to have fair elections. And that's something good that America, how can we in America support other countries while respecting the countries and respecting how they want to run their countries, but support them in the pure pursuit of democracy, not with anything else, but the pure pursuit of democracy as our goal. Support for the democratic opposition to Venezuelan strongmen. And also, if you want to look at it, like how can this selfishly help America? Well, if we support democracy in Venezuela, then less people will have to leave Venezuela. So if you guys hate immigrants and you want less immigration, you would want conditions to be better in people's native lands. Then they'll stay there because things are okay and they don't need to become refugees. Support for the democratic opposition to Venezuelan strongman Nicolas Maduro is among the few international policy matters that have unified Democrats and Republicans in recent years, and it is imperative to maintain that consensus as a new administration assumes power in Washington. The parties might disagree on the particulars of policy toward Venezuela, but there is no path to restoring democracy there that doesn't keep the internal opposition in the lead. It is not certain, however, that the Trump administration's approach to Venezuela will prioritize the promotion of democracy, let alone sustain the country's opposition as the principal protagonists in the effort. On the one hand, the selection of two vocal Florida critics of Maduro, Senator Marco Rubio, Republican from Florida, for Secretary of State, and Representative Mike Waltz, Republican Florida, as National Security Advisor, has raised expectations of a return to the so-called maximum pressure policy of Donald Trump's first term and tightening of economic sanctions intended to trigger the collapse of the Maduro regime. Maduro, however, hopes he could reach a deal with Trump in which Venezuela accepts the return of undocumented migrants in exchange for maintaining licenses for U.S. and foreign oil companies to operate in the country without having to make concessions linked to his stealing the presidential election in July. Maduro's expectations have likely been heightened following Trump's appointment of Rick Grinnell to serve as presidential envoy for special missions to work on Venezuela, among other matters. Shortly before the 2020 election, then President Trump dispatched Grinnell, his former ambassador to Germany and director of national intelligence and Blackwater security firm founder Eric Prince, to negotiate with a Maduro envoy in Mexico City. The encounter led the Venezuelan leadership to believe an accommodation with Trump was possible. While that episode and Trump's history of expressing admiration for authoritarians and trying to overturn his own election loss may make a deal with Maduro seem palatable to the incoming president, any agreement that fails to account for the landslide election victory of Maduro over Maduro of Edmundo Gonzalez, the opposition standard bearer, should generate bipartisan resistance in Congress and dissent within the new administration. Policymakers familiar with Venezuela recognize that the only way to curb illegal migration from the country, as well as reduce the presence there of hostile powers like China, Russia, and Iran, and end its role as a hub for drug trafficking and other transnational criminality, is through the establishment of a government that respects human rights and creates a more favorable economic environment. The precise mix and sequencing of pressure and inducements that would have the highest likelihood of success is subject to legitimate debate, and anyone involved in Venezuela policy in recent years should approach the issue with humility. Trump's sanctions-based policy in his first term left the Venezuelan people poorer, the opposition weaker, and Maduro further ensconced in power, thereby spurring greater migration. The Biden administration's emphasis on diplomacy and economic inducements allowed for the July election to proceed and the opposition to expose Maduro's illegitimacy, though the policy has thus far failed to dislodge the dictator. This history underlines the United States' limited ability to alter the autocratic behavior of Maduro's regime and could provide fodder to Trump to de-emphasize democracy promotion, but it does not mean the United States should abandon the goal. Washington can still help advance democracy in Venezuela by pairing diplomatic initiatives with efforts to bolster the internal opposition. Among the reasons Trump's first-term Venezuela policy failed was that the recognition of National Assembly head and opposition leader Juan Guaido as president in 2019 and other steps to diplomatically isolate and economically weaken the regime were not matched by sufficient internal political pressure on the government. Achieving that today is no easy task, of course. The Venezuelan opposition, led by Maria Corina Machado, has already done more than anyone could have expected. After Machado, the winner of last year's opposition presidential primary, was unconstitutionally banned from running, she and the country's democratic leadership aligned behind Gonzalez's candidacy. Despite an unfair and repressive political environment, Gonzalez won by about 2-1. The regime fabricated results, declared Maduro the victor, and then unleashed a wave of repression, jailing opposition supporters, coercing Gonzalez into exile, and compelling Machado to go into hiding. Today, Venezuelans are fearful and disinclined to protest in person, but still hopeful Gonzalez will be inaugurated as the country's rightful president when Maduro's current term ends on January 10th, 2025. And opposition leaders have not given up on inducing the regime to negotiate a democratic transition by offering incentives, including some form of amnesty for certain crimes. But democracy activists need international support to intensify public pressure on the regime from within Venezuela. Foreign governments and international organizations can help get political prisoners released, allow Mercado and other leaders to operate in the open, and maintain opposition unity, as well as increase access to reporting by independent journalists and employ creative organizational techniques used by successful democratic movements in other authoritarian, my least favorite word, countries. Such efforts would have to be carried out with special care given a new Venezuela law regulating non-governmental organizations intended to restrict support for a civil society. In spite of such pressure, many courageous Venezuelans are prepared to stay engaged in the battle for democracy and human rights from within Venezuela. The United States can help if it reinforces their role. So I think this is interesting because I like, this and America's united hatred of our healthcare system, I think are two great starting points for Donald Trump if he wants to be a president that truly ends up being liked by the country, having a high approval rating. Why not start with these bipartisan issues, things that we all agree on? I think that would be a great way if he's interested in gaining the trust of all Americans, because if he did these things, if he made some positive moves, and if the Democrats could act like adults, if he does something that is cool and we like, and be like, and give him kudos for things that are good, reinforce positive behavior like you would a child. Like, I think if he starts with that and gains, a little bit more trust of Americans who didn't vote for him, and we can cooperate as a country, well, then now we're setting the stage to really get some work done, right? So I think it would be just as strategically good if he is a president who actually wants to, make America great again. Then let's do it, and let's start by, this article says, like, there are things in it for everyone. If we uphold democracy in Venezuela, it is upholding the greater good of democracy, but then also selfishly handling this migrant issue that specifically the right is really obsessed with. Okay, seems like a win-win to me. All right, so that is our show for today. Thank you so much for spending your Christmas with me, or your holiday season, and your Hanukkah, your first night of Hanukkah, right? Because the first night, I believe, is on Christmas Day. I think we had this conversation on Guys We Fucked, and then someone was saying no, but I'm like, no, I think it really is. So
Family Guy said it is, so I believe him.
Yeah. Well, because people get confused because on the Apple calendar, it says first day of Hanukkah is the 26th, but people always forget that, yes, it is the first day of Hanukkah is the 26th. But
first night.
Jewish holidays always start sundown the night before it is stated on the calendar. So, yeah, let me just confirm, just so I don't want to be, giving out wrong information. Yeah. First night of Hanukkah. Yeah, I was right. Yeah. Sundown on Christmas. That's what I thought. Because I always check in November at some point when Hanukkah's going to start.
Well, it's wild because 2-3 years ago, it started on Thanksgiving.
Yeah. Well, us Jews, we are wacky with our calendars. It's whenever we feel like it. Whenever we feel like doing it. And this year we said, you know what? You've been so mean to us this year. We're doing it on Christmas. Fuck you. I don't like when it's on the same. Well, it's okay, I guess, that it starts on Christmas, because then you have something fun to do between Christmas and New Year's. So that's fun, I suppose. Anyway, thank you so much for spending 2024 with me. Prior years, the holiday season, Merry Christmas. I know a lot of you are dealing with, having uproarious arguments with your families, and I don't think it has to be that way. And we on the left are certainly just as guilty of being really difficult to have a conversation with as people on the right. So it is not right specific, I must say. So.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath, and maybe offer something that is a bipartisan issue, like healthcare or like democracy in Venezuela, and bring that to the table as a part, as a topic where you guys can start with a bipartisan issue, and then work towards a screaming match about abortion. That would be fun. Join me on New Year's Eve at New York Comedy Club East Village. Follow me on social media at Philanthropy Gal. Follow Mike at Them Harrington. Follow us both at Without a Country podcast on Instagram, and make sure to click subscribe on that YouTube for Without a Country. It helps us so much. Maybe share your love of Without a Country over the holidays this year and say, hey, here's a really interesting news show. This could be something that we could talk about to ease the discontent in our family with political conversations. Anyway, I will see you again on New Year's Day. So this is our last time I'll see you for 2024. It's been an exciting year. Keep thinking critically. Thank you so much for all your support, and I'll see the patrons on Patreon. But I love all my wackos, and it's been a great year.
Thanks, bitch. Have a great day.